Welcome back. This video is going to cover the second half of chapter 13 in the book of Romans. Um, it'd be a good idea maybe to read all of chapter 12 and 13 over just to kind of see the whole argument and explode concentrating on this. If you don't feel like you have time to do that, read 13, 8 to the end, but go back and read 12, 1 and 2 again so you can see kind of the thesis that Paul's working with and come right back. All right, welcome back. And so what we're going to see here is sort of this sort of wrap up of this section where Paul is kind of giving this sort of spiel of like what it means to be a living sacrifice. Since all of Romans 1 through 11 is true, therefore this is how we live. Be a living sacrifice, present yourself to be holy. And then he went through like, okay, this is your role in the church. He's like, so this is how we live to each other, some rapid fire advice. Then this is how you live with your neighbor, rapid fire advice. Oh, by the way, this is how we live with regard to the state, and make sure you give them what you owe them, which they're there for a reason, doing a hard job, and treat them that way. And he kind of broadens from the state down to your neighbor, how that works. So this is kind of like the social kind of side of it. But I mean, you could also look at this as still kind of a political idea, and the sort of the next paragraph, kind of like we saw before. So submit yourself to earthly authorities. And then here is like, okay, give your neighbor what you owe them. And so there's like a set of like law here that we see. So it says, owe no one anything. Basically, don't go. Make sure you're paid up in every direction that you have around you as much as you can be, except to love each other. So owe love, and that's gonna be the key phrase. I want to start seeing haunt this thing. Remember, I said you always want to look kind of back for this section to like 1 Corinthians 12, 13, 14 are kind of like the ranty version of this. Here, this is a very kind of like I'm just covering all my bases version of it. And so it says, "Oh, only love. For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law." And here you can see Jesus and Paul in complete agreement on how to fulfill the law. Love fulfills the law. And so ultimately, this law that we've been seeing the whole time, that now, we're going to be doing, we can actually do it now because of Christ in us, that we have love in us and we have grace. And it's done through love, which you could not fake your way into having the kind of love it would take to do the old law. But now we can skip straight to the love. It's going to look a lot like the commands that you knew from the old laws, as we fell short on before. And we now have it like it's this is being a sacrifice. It's not winning anything. It's not earning anything. It's not trying to like prove ourselves anyone because we have faith still. So this is how it all fits together. So it says, "For the one who loves another has fulfilled the law. For the commandments, you shall not commit adultery, you shall not murder, you shall not steal, you shall not covet, and any other commandments are summed up in this word: you shall love your neighbor as yourself." And so here, Paul is kind of like almost like doing the rabbinical thing, and like Jesus had done, where it's like all the law and the prophets are summed up in love your Lord your God with all your heart, soul, mind, and spirit, and love your neighbor as yourself. And here he's kind of showing how. It's like all the commands those are the things you owe your neighbor love, and therefore that means you're not doing any of these things to your neighbor, but you're also loving them. So it's like you flip it from the negative to the positive. If you're loving your neighbor, you're certainly not committing adultery with their wife. You're certainly not killing them. You're certainly not stealing from them. And you want the best for them, so you're not coveting their stuff. You're happy for them to have it. So all those things there, love does no wrong to a neighbor. Of course it doesn't do wrong. So it's not like, it's not fun police. It's saying don't do wrong to your neighbor because you love your neighbor. And that's who you are now if you're a living sacrifice. Therefore, love is the fulfilling of the law. And we kind of saw again, if you're doing this, like the governing authorities that we saw earlier in the passage, shouldn't have any problem with you. Does that mean that some do? Yeah, Hitler's bad, and there's some places that are just downright poisonous like that, like Kim Jong-un, or just petty little local tyrants that will try to force you to do the wrong thing. The love matters more than the obedience, but in general, the love's going to keep you out of trouble with most of the disobedience issues. So, like, you're probably not breaking many of the laws if you're living a life of love. You're probably indifferent to a lot of the things that the laws are about. So it's a matter of indifference to do it. So, for example, teenagers that are Christians, if there's a law against drinking, um, then don't drink. So, I mean, it's like that's like breaking rebellion's not worth it. So, because you love, not because you are trying to prove yourself to be one of the good people as opposed to the bad people. It's like, nah, I'm just not gonna do that. It's like I don't feel like all the act of love and kind of living a different way. And he's going to kind of build on that principle going forward and chapter verses 11 through 14. Beside this, you know the time that the hour has come for you to wake up from sleep, for salvation is nearer to us now than when we first believed. Paul always has a sense of urgency. He he looks at this world as like in the dawn of a new day. He's like he's very conscious that he's closer to running out of time than when he started. Now, both in his life, but also like Jesus coming back. So live like that because we're even closer. It's like we haven't added more time. We're even closer. The night is far gone. The day is at hand. So we're going to be in the day where the way of life of love that we're going to have forever in the resurrection is closer at hand. So why you living more like the way you used to live than the way that we're going to live? The way you're going to live, that's the way we live in the open, as opposed to the way we used to live, which is the way you would kind of hide. And that's what he's going to kind of get. The night's gone. What does the night look like? It says, cast off the works of darkness, the kind of things you want to hide, and put on the armor of light. Be the same person throughout the entire of your life and live the way that you want to live at the end, the way you want to live permanently. So it says, let us walk properly as in the daytime, not in orgies and drunkenness, thinking about the drunken Roman parties of the time, not in sexual immorality and sensuality, not in quarreling and jealousy. So it's not just like the sexual sins, it's not just the party animal type sins that he's looking at. It's the living for pleasure right now. It's like you got time's running out. We got bigger fish to fry. So kind of think that sense of urgency. I like this. This is every corner of your life. It's like it's time to kind of get serious about stuff. It doesn't mean live your life in nothing but seriousness, but it's like if you know time's short, you make different decisions than if you know time's long. And it's not just like holy decisions. This is also kind of it's a sense of like urgency without with the faith that it's still on God. And it also means you're not living your life in things that you got to hide, things that you're going to be ashamed of one day. You're trying not to do those right now. And it also is like quarreling and jealousy, which is going to be a big part of the next section. Don't live your life that way. Life's too. Have you ever heard of? If you ever heard of the expression, "Life's too short to deal with that." That's what he means. Like this world's too short to deal with quarreling and jealousy, and also like, if you don't want them to not, if there's other people you want to hide it from, you probably shouldn't be doing it. But instead, put on the Lord Jesus Christ and make no provision for the flesh to gratify its desires. So, like, make no provision for the flesh. That's like, don't save up money and resources and effort to do things you know are wrong. The part of you that wants to rebel, don't save it out. So, don't schedule sin. Don't save up for sin. Don't save mental energy for sin. Don't does that make if that I hope that makes sense. So that kind of wraps up kind of 13, which is a lot of the side by side one, and then we get to 14, which seems to be maybe the chapter that's about the thing he's most worried about in this Roman church. It's going to be like this is where he's butting in on other people's business, and we'll do that in the next video.